day 12 of reading a book of Luke to you guys, so that whenever Christmas time comes around, we will all understand why and what Christmas was made for. So first we read about a warning of hypocrisy. And Jesus tells us this. It says actually in verse 1, it says, "Beware of the yeast of Pharisees." And for those that don't know what yeast is what is put into dough. And yeast is often referred in the Bible as something that can spread very, very quickly. And it can be dangerous in some ways and it can be good in some ways. But specifically, it says, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees. And Jesus tells us this because he's like, you need to be aware of what you are putting yourself around. You need to be aware of what goes in your ears and what comes out of your mouth. He's saying you need to be aware of what happens around you and what situations you're putting yourself in. Because the things that you're hearing, because of the environment that you put yourself in, that stuff spreads to you. That's why he says beware of the yeast, because it spreads to you. The things that you are put around, your environment around you, if you're put in an unsafe environment, these things that you hear in your ears can spread to you and it'll start reflecting off of your character. So I really just want to say, beware of what and who you put yourself around. And then we read about the parable of the rich fool. So in verse 16 through 21, it reads this. A rich man had a fertile farm that produced fine crops. He said to himself, "What should I do? I don't have room for all my crops." Then he said, "I know, I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Then I'll have room enough to store all my wheat and other goods. And I'll sit back and say to myself, my friend, you have enough stored away for years to come. Now take it easy, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, you will die this very night. Then who will get everything you worked for? Yes, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God." You see, some of us are living our lives like this. Just stacking and stacking and stacking, and we're just stacking on with these things that we desire from earthly wealth. Yeah, there are things that we want in this earth. There's things that we desire. There's things that we want, and these things are just stacking up. They're stacking up on top of each other, and we're not even noticing it. You see, in reality, we should be stacking up those books of the Bible that we should be reading. We should be stacking up the things that we learn from Jesus Christ. We should be stacking up the things that we learn from God every day. So listen to God when he says this. Yes, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth. You are a fool if you do that, but not have a rich relationship with God. Stack up your relationship with God. I mean, it's only going to be for your benefit. It's going to be for your benefit. You're going to realize that you're loved. You're going to learn how to love the right way, and you learn so much more, and it builds you. It really builds you, and you're only saving yourself from whatever Satan has put traps. Satan has put like bear traps along your pathway, and you're just stepping into them blamelessly, and it's hurting you inside. It is. I know the pain that you're going through. I know it. And you may sit here and say, well, you don't know anything about me, but I know you've been suffering. I know you've been going through pain. I know you've been going through hard times. But going to God and stacking up a relationship with him is the answer, is how you get rid of all of that pain. And then we read about the teaching of money and possessions. God, he specifically tells us not to be worried, not to be faithless. He specifically warns us throughout this, section of Luke chapter 12 to remain faithful. And remaining faithful in this area in your life would be so important. A lot of us have finals. A lot of us are stressed about many things in life, whether if it's, jobs and work and school and whatever it may be. We're stressed, but God is saying, don't worry. You don't have to even worry about what clothes you need to put on the next day. I got you. You need to stop worrying and stop being so faithless. Put your faith in me and see what happens. And then next we read about being ready for the Lord's coming. And I'm going to just kind of read from verse 38 because I really love what Jesus says here. It says, "He may come in the middle of the night or just before dawn, but whenever he comes, he will reward the servants who are ready." Like, understand this. If a homeowner knew exactly when a burglar was coming, he would not permit his house to be broken into. You must also be ready at all times, for the Son of Man will come when least expected. Let me ask you this. When do you feel like you are furthest from God? Like, sometimes we may feel furthest from God whenever things in our life aren't going the best. Or even an example of this, like if we're, say we got in an argument with our friend. And sometimes whenever we get in arguments, we just tend to say things that we may not even really mean. So like in those moments you feel heated, you feel upset because you really want to get back at them because of what they just said to you. And in those moments, you just really just want to get at them. Like you don't really care about what other people have to say at the moment. The moments like those moments where you really do not care about what Jesus has to tell you, in that moment, in that instant, you may hear the Holy Spirit speaking to you, telling you, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't say this. And sometimes we get that feeling, it's like, man, I felt like I really shouldn't have said that after you say it, because you feel guilty. And that guilt comes from the Holy Spirit telling you, you shouldn't have done that. But in those moments, right before you're about to burst out at them, those are the moments that are the most unexpected moments that you would, least expect the Son of Man to come. Those moments whenever you're heated, those moments whenever you just want to get at someone, those are the moments that we need to remain pure in. Y'all, we have to be prepared for the Son of Man coming. We have to be prepared. We can't keep letting it slide thinking that we can just go one more day doing whatever we want and then we'll turn to God later. No, we gotta continue working on ourselves, guys. We need to start building that relationship with Him so that you'll get better and better, so that whenever you feel heated and want to get at someone, you'll be able to stay calm and say, you know what, the Holy Spirit is telling me to do this, so I'm going to obey it. And then finally, we talk about Jesus causing division. And I'm going to read to you what I wrote on the side. I wrote on the side of my Bible about what I kind of thought that this little area meant. I wrote, why do you put yourself in situations where you know the difference from right and wrong but still choose wrong? You see, many of us are just setting ourselves up for the devil. We're making ourselves available, and then the devil sees that and he's like, okay, I can get at them right now because they are available. They are available to all of these things that I can just lure them into. So many of us are like, okay, I want to be clean. I don't want to do these things. But then it's like you're setting yourself up for failure. Put yourself in situations where you know that you don't have to make the last decision before you do X, Y, and Z. Or in other words, push yourself to God before going to any other things that you know can harm you dearly. Like there is an analogy that I love to use all the time, and whenever I often talk to like my classmates, whenever they need help or anything like that, I always bring up this analogy and I really love it. And it goes along something like this. Whenever you are fighting a battle, it's better off to stay outside of the rink instead of going in it and fighting the fight, so you don't really know if you're going to be able to win the fight or lose the fight. And an example of this would be lust. Don't put yourself around those things that you know will tempt you. Don't put yourself around it in the first place. So then whenever those things do come, you'll be like, oh, I don't know if I want to look at this or not. See, then that's when you're fighting the battle. When God is telling you, no, let me fight the battle. You have me on your side. Just stay away from those things and put your faith in me, and those things will not come to you and they won't harm you anymore. But anyways, y'all, I love y'all, and I really hope you guys got something out of Luke chapter 12, and I'll see y'all tomorrow for day 13. God bless you. Go in peace.